Hey, what's up? Michael Castro here. And in this video, I want to talk about how we can best manage stress and anxiety, especially during periods of uncertainty like we're in right now. To help me do this, I brought in my good friend, Joseph Castrogiovanni. So we actually go back to elementary school and high school. So we've known each other for quite some time. A little bit about Joseph. He's a licensed clinical mental health counselor who was trained at the Albert Ellis Institute in Manhattan. There, he became certified in rational emotive and cognitive behavioral therapy. Basically, what that means, he's helped countless people fight against anxiety and depression, and he's here right now to share his thoughts. Thank you so much, Joseph, for coming by or getting on this call with us.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to ask Joey a series of questions. So don't be alarmed, Joseph. I'm sure you're well equipped to answer everything.
Fire away.
Yeah. Do you have any opening thoughts before we get started?
Yeah, given the times that we're living in right now, I just like to extend my condolences to anybody suffering with the coronavirus or has a family member who is suffering from the disease itself or any of the other economic hardships that we're facing right now. And also like to extend my gratitude to the medical field right now for taking care of us and carrying us through this pandemic, and a number of other professionals as well, like teachers and police officers, for keeping us going.
Nice, noted. Likewise, I definitely have the same sentiment. So it's easy to be jacked up on fear and anxiety and fear of the unknown, fear of uncertainty during this time. So what's your take on this whole pandemic, this whole coronavirus situation?
Well, it's clearly one of the most devastating things to happen to not only this country, but the world. This is very much unexpected and difficult to deal with. And in times of uncertainty, it's often good to focus on the things that are most important to us.
Right. Things that are most important to us. So can you elaborate on that? I feel like it's easy to lose sight of what's important during these times. Like, people rushing to the store, buying a lot of toilet paper or hoarding a lot of groceries. Do you think that's important? Like, is that really helping?
Well, I think that the answer is yes and no. It's good to be pragmatic and prepare for multiple days, if not a couple weeks at a time. But we wouldn't want to extend to several months ahead, because then we're doing a disservice to our fellow citizens.
So it's about being aware and being responsible at the same time.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, being aware of the threats in your environment, making sure you're keeping up with your self-care, taking care of your loved ones, and social distancing, as they've been saying.
Nice. Okay, cool. So getting more deeper into it, let's just say, a lot of people have lost their jobs now. The economy is tanking, and that's just adding to the stress and anxiety. So what are some ways to actively manage stress during this time?
Absolutely. So the first thing that you want to do is understand that this is a time where we need to weather the storm. And this actually goes back to a coach that Michael and I had for wrestling, Coach Corey McNamara.
Yeah.
And he used to tell us to weather the storm. And the same is true right now. This is a conversation that I've been having with a number of my clients to help them build a sense of resilience. And in order to do that, we need to stay sharp and be aware of the thoughts that we're having, because when we have negative thoughts, we can often make our situation much worse than it needs to be in a crisis time like this.
Got you. Yeah, but feel like, I turn on the news right now, and the news is very informative. It's telling you the situation, but it's also exaggerated at some point. So how do you best decipher the information that's given to you and kind of like calibrate an appropriate response?
It's all about taking things into perspective. With regard to the pandemic, we don't have a good way of assessing how long this will last or what will really transpire over the next month or so. So we really do want to, again, dilate in on a smaller time frame. Anytime we are in an unknown place like this, we want to, zoom in on ourselves. What do we need to survive in the next second, the next minute? right? Then you can scale up to the next day, maybe the next week, as things start to become clear, as you explore what it is like to live within this time. So on the most basic level, if you really find yourself in a hard spot, you would want to focus on what you need to physically survive, right? So that means focus on making sure you're breathing deeply, not shallowly. Focus on making sure you have food, water, that your shelter is sufficient, that your loved ones are okay. And you wouldn't necessarily be thinking about that promotion that you want to get, or whether or not you called back that client or not. Things like that have to fall to the background to a degree in order for us to prioritize self-preservation.
Got you. Okay, so taking it day by day, basically living in the present, living in the present moment is very important.
Absolutely.
So objectively speaking too, and again, my heart goes out to you if you or a loved one, your health has been affected, you're sick, my heart goes out to the medical workers on the front line. But the majority of us, objectively speaking, are at home, quarantined, practicing social distancing. And it's been a slight adjustment because it's influencing our daily habits, our daily routines. And I think with that, people have not dealt with this before, so they feel isolated and they feel a little bit depressed. So how do you recommend practicing, I guess, healthy social distancing during this time?
First and foremost, as a cognitive therapist, I'm a big proponent of people talking back to their thoughts. Oftentimes, we're much more likely to just take what we're thinking as fact without ever picking it up and analyzing it a bit. And oftentimes, if we're having an emotional or behavioral disturbance in our life, whether it be depression that leads to self-isolation or anxiety that leads to panic attacks, right? There's going to be some sort of distortion with how we're thinking. And that lies really in the perspective that we're taking of the events that we have. So what I'm referencing is the foundational ideologies behind Stoicism, which provided the foundation for rationally motive and cognitive behavioral therapy. Albert Ellis, who's the founder of rationally motive and cognitive behavioral therapy, was strongly influenced by people like Marcus Aurelius, for example.
So can you kind of expand on what you mean by Stoicism?
Sure. I mean, Stoicism means many things. Some of those include self-control, courage, wisdom, and really just striving, all while accepting the things that are outside of our control. So for me personally, what Stoicism means is always striving to be better while acknowledging that which is outside of your control. And to be specific, what I mean by that, outside of your control, is that anything that's outside of your own mind is external. So even your body is external to your mind, because no matter how much you think about it, you can't prevent a disease from afflicting you. You can't prevent an accident from happening. Your body can still fail you.
Got you. Interesting. Yeah, it's just putting things in perspective of what's important, and you're not above anything, you're not immune to anything. Anything can happen. Just knowing that. That's really powerful stuff.
Absolutely. And a conversation that I was just having with someone recently is that the world is a dangerous place. And even with this pandemic, it's only marginally more dangerous, right? We enter our cars every day without even thinking of the risk of an accident or mortality in that. And this pandemic, being that it's on repeat on numerous social media streams and mainstream media, TV, we're just inundated with it. So it's really putting that in our faces, right? So it could be quite easy to think that this is an absolute catastrophe. And that's where we're projecting too far into the future and not putting it into perspective. As a professor that I once had shared with me, every long road eventually turns. So if you want to enjoy the fruits of our modern society and a sense of normalcy, once this dies down, you have to, again, weather that storm.
It's important to note too, I think we forget, like, storms pass. This is not going to be the current state forever. It will pass. There's always ups and downs in life, and basically in anything, there's ups and downs. So I like what you said about weathering the storm. In terms of maybe some exercises that you could do, or tools to manage stress and anxiety, what would you recommend? I know like we're talking right now, video chatting, that's very good. What do you think about how to be social in this time?
Mm. Absolutely. I think that staying connected is very important, and to really, make that extra effort and use the technology that we have these days with video calling and things like that. While a video call isn't quite going to make up for face-to-face contact, it's an added layer of experience that really helps us feel connected, just to see somebody's face looking back at us and see you smile or react to what I'm saying right now. That it creates a certain level of rapport and support.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so, with regard to other habits and the idea of change, I think this is important to mention here. Change is an inevitable thing. So in an ever-changing world, you need to provide the constant for yourself. And you can do that in any number of ways, in very practical activities throughout your day. That can look like a morning routine, as simple as drinking a glass of water, to maybe expanding on that and doing some journaling or a quick workout or a meditation or a breathing exercise. And it's important to have these markers consistently throughout your day. And the same can be said for our larger routines, such as sleep. To have a set time that you're going to bed and waking up each day is essential for regulating your circadian rhythm, and by default, your hormones, your mood, your ability, and your immune system, your ability to fight infection.
So it's all connected. So you would recommend establishing some simple daily habits or routines. Like for instance, myself, for the past 7 days, I think, I've been waking up, and the first thing I do when I get up, I have this journal. And I basically just write down what I'm grateful for this day. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my supportive friends. I'm grateful for food. So that's what I do the first thing in the morning. And then I go through my day. I have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. And then that just puts me in a positive state of mind.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's a great way of being that constant for yourself, and making sure that you're sending this message to your brain, because it's awfully dark in here, right? That everything is okay. I'm on this consistent path. I'm moving forward. You're taking care of things. Again, that repetition day after day can be very soothing.
I see.
To know that you're going to have that, and that'll be there. That's your time.
So you think those habits kind of reinforce our mental state and put us in like a more positive state of mind?
Absolutely. It'd be like dropping an anchor for a ship, to keep you in place, so that way you don't drift away into the chaos of Channel 12 news for us and beyond.
Shout out to Long Island people.
Cheers.
Aside from creating a habit, can we talk more specifically on view on exercise and just like diet and health during this time too?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So just a quick disclaimer, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a psychotherapist. So this isn't meant to diagnose, treat, or cure anything for anybody, but my own personal take on it, and it's validated by the scientific literature, is that it'd be a good idea to implement an intermittent fasting routine, following a low carb diet, and making sure you stay active, whether that's a walk of 30 minutes to an hour minimum, to, if you have some access to barbells. I'm a big fan of compound lifts, such as bench press, rows, things of that nature, squats, deadlifts. And all these things not only play a role in targeting better mental health. Specifically, it's been used as an intervention for anxiety and depression, but also to ensure that you're in good physical health, and to make sure your immune system is in top shape.
Got you. That makes sense. So basically, a key takeaway is just do something. Make use of what you have, get the blood flowing, do some type of physical activity.
Yeah. The biggest thing is not to treat this social distancing as one big slumber party where everybody's roaming around in their pajamas all day long and eating snacks and watching TV, that can get that can be a slow road into a self-destructive way of living.
To interrupt, I know what you're wondering. Does Michael Nicastro wear blazers to go to sleep? To answer your question, yes, he does. So thank you so much for listening to my talk with Joseph Castrogiovanni. We actually talked on and on and on. So there's going to be a part 2 of this video where we're going to include some special resources like different books to read or different breathing exercises in the links in the next video. So be sure to check that out in a couple days. In the meantime, as a closing remark, I recommend to really realize that you're not alone and there's different people and resources out there to help you. Reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member, reach out to a teacher. We're all here to guide you during this time. If you'd like to contact Joseph, I'll leave his contact information below. You can contact him by his number or his email. You can email him at revivify365@gmail.com. Again, I'll put that in the description below. So thank you so much. I'm Michael Nicastro. I am just throwing all different content at you left and right. I hope it is of value to you. Take care, practice social distancing, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.